In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of.
Helen came out of her house and locked the door to her self-contained apartment and stood there trying to steady herself. The nightmare shook her more than she cared to admit. She ran her hands through the long hair Mama had given her for Christmas, adjusted the dress she wore. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. She had a mission, and she would get it done no matter what. As she came down the short flight of stairs that led to her apartment, she saw that her landlady's daughters were already out getting their children ready for school. A more troublesome lot she was yet to see. As soon as they saw her, they started laughing. And at what, Helen couldn't tell. She cared little for them today. She had come to the conclusion that their behavior was out of their own inferiority complex and envy. There were 3 of them, and they each had like 2 children for different men. A painstaking cry and an equally violent beating of a child reached her ears, and she turned around only to see one of the daughters flogging a child like she was an inanimate object. The child wailed and rolled on the floor while the mother continued to flog him with a gigantic cane. Helen's heart went out to the child. It was even more painful because there was nothing she could do about it. The last time she had tried to intervene had only made it worse. The child received a double dose of the flogging, and she received a whole lot of insults for her trouble. She saw her cab and walked towards it, feeling very bad for the little boy. She wondered what would make a mother abuse her child that way. She wondered if the mother somehow blamed the child for all the wrong choices she had made and their resulting consequences too. Still, she couldn't bring herself to do completely nothing, so she picked up her phone and scrolled to the child welfare services she had saved because of the sisters. After the call, she tried putting the ugly scene out of her mind and took another deep breath in preparation of accomplishing her mission. First of all, she had to find out if Chuck was in town. He had spent his last holiday abroad and had hardly been back since he started dating his white supermodel girlfriend. She quickly pushed the unhappy thought out of her mind. Why she didn't want to remember that Chuck was dating a white girl, she didn't care to tell. She wondered if he was settling down at last. He had been dating the girl longer than any other girl he had dated before. He flaunted her easily, posting pictures of the 2 of them on his Instagram page. Their topic was the hottest on all the gossip and celebrity blogs and magazines. It had hurt her real bad then. But at last she was ready to get over her silly infatuation with him. She was moving on, taking back her life. She was taking the first step of recovering her memories, of finding out who she was. Seeing Chuck and taking back her purse was symbolic. She was not only taking back her purse, she was taking back her life from him. She shook her head from side to side, as if trying to clear it of the painful thought that Chuck might be settling down with another girl before she had the chance to show him. Show him what? She demanded from herself. The man was out of her league. All she needed from him was her purse and nothing more. Arriving at the headquarters of Mama, Helen took a deep breath and walked forward, unsteady and uncertain, but she couldn't help the happy sense of achievement that overtook her each time she walked into Mama. To think that she was part of this magnificent history. After her marriage to Uche, Mama had expanded Mama. It now had 3 boutiques and smaller stores in almost all the malls in the city. Mama had not done it alone. Helen had been there by her side, doing all that was necessary to make sure the journey was less painful and more successful. If only she had her memory of who she was, what she was. Did she have a husband, children, fiancé, parents, or siblings? Have they given her up for dead? It has been 3 years since she went missing. Will she easily give up a loved one for dead, no matter how long it took, without the proof of the person's death? She couldn't tell. The truth, she didn't know what kind of a person she was, what she did, if she was loved, or if she was even being missed. Getting to the door of the building, she pushed the sad and confusing thoughts out of her mind as she pushed open the door and entered into another world, a world of magic. Magic created by the very best magicians in the field, being headed by a woman whose creativity, decisions, and personality she had come to respect and love so dearly. Helen nodded at the greetings of some of her colleagues and headed to the elevators. The workroom and offices were located at the 5th floor and very private. Yes, that was how big Mma had grown in less than 2 years. Uche had surprised his wife by buying her this 10-story high-rise to celebrate their 1-year anniversary, and Mma, being a tough and sensible businesswoman, had put it to good use. The elevator door opened and Helen walked into the beautiful hallway and walked straight to her office. She dropped her bag and sat down. Best I get it over with now, she told herself. She needed to know Chuck's plan. She was strongly expecting him to come back since Mma's son would be celebrating his first birthday in 2 days. Chuck wouldn't miss it for the world. He missed his church dedication, her mind reminded her. He couldn't make it because it was the middle of the football season. "You are just being a coward," she said to herself, and got up from her chair. With determined footsteps, she went in search of Mma. Helen knocked slightly and entered the beautifully furnished office. Mma was talking on the phone, but smiled at her when she came in and waved her to a seat. "I love you, darling, but I have to go now," Mma said and blew a kiss. "Didn't you guys wake up together this morning?" Helen joked. "What makes you think I was talking to Uche? Who else would you be saying I love you to?" And then the kiss. Mma laughed. "When you fall in love, you would understand. Right now, it wouldn't make any sense to you. You look radiant. I love that frock," Mma complimented. "As well you should. It is one of yours." "We are good, aren't we?" "Better than that. We are the best." Mma laughed. "Your hubris is comforting." Helen smiled. It was time to launch into the agenda of coming there. "How is the birthday boy doing?" "He is destructive. I don't know where he gets that from." Helen laughed. "Let's see. He broke his grandmother's very rare and expensive urn. What else?" "Painted on his father's very important major documents." I have never seen my husband quite mad, confused, and amused at the same time like that before. He is a darling. Luckily for him, we love him more than any earthly possession, so he can get away with it for now. My boy, does he miss me? Does he miss Tahihin? They both laughed. Of course he does. He's only quite agreeable and quiet when you are around. So how are the party plans coming up? We have decided that tomorrow night will be barbecue with friends and family, since Uche wants to show off his newly acquired grilling skills. Wow, so family and friends and, the usual bunch? Helen was a bit frustrated. Mma wasn't forthcoming with information. She needed her to say if Chuck was coming or not. "You just looked a bit worried now," Mma observed. Helen quickly smiled. "Me? I'm fine." "Helen, I know you, and I know you are not fine. So come out with it." Helen thought about it. She felt like a criminal taking advantage of Mma's concern. But there was no way she could really tell her that she had had amnesia for 3 years and didn't have the guts to tell her after all they had been through, and that she had only come to see her because she needed information on Chuck to get back her red purse, which could be the only means to her remembering her past. When put like that, Helen thought, it wasn't just criminal. It sounded downright diabolic. "Helen, you can talk to me about anything," Mma said, jolting her out of her thoughts. There was no choice for it. Helen thought and smiled at Mma. "It's just that everyone coming would be paired up, You and Uche, IJ and Stanley, Chuck and his supermodel girlfriend. I seem to be the only one who would be alone, and maybe star. She never had a chance before the white girl sank her claws on Chuck. Wow, was all Helen said. But on the bright side, I am inviting our doctor's son. He is a surgeon abroad, so there will be someone you can pair up with. Me and Star both. Funny how the two of us would appear desperate vying for his attention. Forget about me. I was just being my foolish, insecure self. On the brighter side, there is still Stanley. We are looking for a way to save him from IG. You could be his savior. No. Not interested in handsome billionaires who think they walk on water and that women should worship them. That was exactly my husband. But look at him today, in love and loving every minute of it. Helen smiled and gave up trying to get information from Mma. This one, she concluded, she was going to solve on her own. Or Chuck, Mma said suddenly. Chuck has a girlfriend and he might not even come back. He wouldn't miss it for the world. Besides, he's on break. And we could always devise a means to keep him separated from his girlfriend and stop, please. We sound like two wicked stepsisters. Your call, darling. His plane will touch down tonight, and you know I would do anything for you. Helen heaved a sigh of relief. She had just the information she needed, but try as much as she couldn't hide her sadness that Chuck wasn't coming alone. Helen, you don't have to worry about being alone. Work with it, and when the right person comes along, you will know it. I am sure of it, and it's okay. So enough of the heavy stuff. Have we the time and date for the launch of the lingerie line? Not yet, but let's talk about it later today. You own 25% of it, so it's not a decision I can make alone. You, me, Amber, and Rose need to come together and discuss it first. Fine then, Helen got up. I had better head back to my department. I have a piled-up table. Helen closed the door behind her and all thoughts of work fled. She needed to get her purse tonight if possible. All through the day, she did nothing but devise and discard one plan after the other. She needed an angle, a believable one to get into Chuck's house. She could just meet him at Mma's son's party and ask for it, she decided. He asked you to come get it yourself, her mind reminded her. Yes, but that was eons ago. So he might have forgotten her, forgotten the pause, forgotten their kiss. She looked down on her table, feeling somehow sad that he could forget the kiss that was still on her mind every of her waking moments. No, she would go get it herself, at least to get a closure. Her crush on him was something she should have gotten over with before then. Why she continued to moon over him she couldn't say. The man hardly knew she existed, hadn't done anything to encourage her feelings, yet the feeling seemed to grow even as his knowledge of her faded from his mind. Maybe seeing him with the woman he loved would bring it home to her that this man wasn't for her, was taken and no longer available. Helen rehearsed in her mind what she would say to him, how sophisticated she would behave, and how nonchalant she would sound. As she rode home in a taxi, she tried to build a forte around her heart, her feelings, her body, and all parts of her that seemed to lose control whenever he was near. It was rather a long list, because it seemed every part of her was aware of him in their different capacity. This is not working, Helen said to herself as she walked into her modest house. She wished she had someone to talk to, another woman who would understand how she felt, and why what she was going to do was beyond difficult. Mma would happily and eagerly play that role, but then she would have to tell her about her amnesia. Mma would see it as a betrayal of trust, that she would hide something so huge from her, when her own life was an open book for Helen. No, she wasn't going to tell Mma yet. She wasn't ready to lose the friendship of the only person who gave a hoot about her. She was going to do this on her own, and if it backfired, then she would live with it.
In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you. You're the one I can't let go. In your arms I find my home. Love, sweet love, it's you I'm dreaming of. Every moment with you feels like a gift from above.